Have you ever noticed how the quietest people often shift the energy in the room without saying a single word? They don't plead, they don't raise their voices, they don't explain, they simply retreat. And suddenly, everything changes. People become uncertain, restless, as if the very absence of your reaction disturbs something they can't name. Now, imagine if you stopped explaining yourself, stopped reacting instantly, stopped showing up on demand. What would happen? You think they'd forget you? But in truth, they'd begin to fear you. Because silence, real, intentional silence, is not absence, it's presence, amplified. Most people don't realize how deeply they rely on your reactions, your availability, your emotional presence. The moment you withdraw, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, they feel it because they were feeding on your responses. Your yes when you meant no, your quick reply, your willingness to smooth things over. But when you pause, when you disconnect, when you begin to protect your space instead of constantly offering it, the illusion breaks. They realize they never actually knew you. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Now ask yourself, when you pull back, who panics? Who tries to provoke you? Who accuses you of being cold, difficult, or distant? Pay attention. That reaction reveals their dependence on your compliance. You thought you were just being kind, but really, you were being consumed. With every forced smile, every unnecessary explanation, every reply you gave out of guilt rather than desire, you leaked energy. And that energy never returns. It turns into exhaustion, emotional confusion, and worst of all, self-abandonment. This video isn't about becoming selfish, it's about becoming whole. What Jung called individuation, the journey of becoming your true self, untangled from the roles others impose on you. And it often begins not with words, but with withdrawal. Not running away, but stepping back. When you stop answering every call to battle, every emotional pull, every expectation to perform, you reclaim something sacred. You reclaim yourself. So let me ask you, how much of your day is spent giving away your peace, just to keep the peace? And more importantly, for who? Since childhood, many of us were taught that love means availability, that saying no makes us selfish, that silence is dangerous. We were trained to be emotionally open, even to people who hadn't earned the right to see us. But here's the truth they never taught you. Being constantly available is not compassion, it's conditioning. And those who expect it from you aren't seeking connection, they're seeking control. As long as you're predictable, you're manageable. And what's manageable can be manipulated. They push your buttons and you react. They know your insecurities and they poke. They use your kindness, your guilt, your desire to be loved against you. And you think you're being generous. But really, you're being used. Not because you're weak, but because you never realized you had the right to stop performing. This idea is central to Jung's concept of psychic energy, the life force of your mind and spirit. Everything you do, every thought you entertain, every emotion you feel, draws from that reservoir. The question is, are you spending it wisely? Because every time you jump to defend yourself, every time you say yes when your soul screams no, every time you chase someone who disrespects your boundaries, you're not resolving the situation. You're bleeding your power. Jung believed that a strong psyche is one that conserves energy, not wastes it. But let's be honest, how much of your life is spent reacting to messages, to guilt, to expectations, to the fear of being disliked. And all that reacting keeps you in a loop where you never truly rest, never truly are. It's no wonder you feel tired, lost, unsure, not because something is wrong with you, but because your energy has been outsourced to everyone but you. And here's where it gets darker, because there are people who sense this. They don't need to say much, they just know how to keep you on edge. A delayed text, a backhanded compliment, an emotional story told at just the right moment. Not to connect, but to hook you. This is not connection, this is manipulation. And manipulation doesn't always come with a villainous grin. Sometimes it comes from people you love. Sometimes it comes from you. Because here's what most don't realize. We don't just get manipulated, we participate in it. By refusing to disappoint, by fearing rejection, by trying to be the perfect partner, friend, child, colleague. And that need for approval is the open door that lets others step in and rearrange our entire emotional architecture. But the moment you stop reacting, the moment you allow silence to settle like dust over the noise, something incredible happens. The mask they placed on you begins to crack, and suddenly they can no longer predict you, can no longer control you, can no longer use your emotions as levers. And this is when you'll face their rage. Because when you stop playing your part, their illusion crumbles. You were never supposed to be their savior, their therapist, their emotional lifeboat. You just forgot that. But now, you remember. Let's be clear, this path isn't easy. There will be silence that feels like loneliness. There will be space that feels empty. There will be guilt, doubts, and emotional turbulence. But let that discomfort be your initiation. Because beyond that is clarity, power, peace. Silence is not passive. It is active restraint. It is observation instead of reaction. It is sovereignty instead of submission. True silence is not cold, it's precise. It says, I no longer argue to be understood. I no longer explain to be accepted. I no longer trade peace for proximity. Jung said, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. And awakening often begins with silence. Not because silence fixes everything, but because it finally lets you hear what's really there. You, without the noise, without the masks, without the expectations. Just you and your energy finally returning home. If this spoke to something deep inside you, consider this your invitation. Withdraw, observe, reclaim, not to escape the world, but to re-enter it as someone who is no longer controlled by it. If you found value in this message, don't forget to like this video, leave a comment sharing your experience, and subscribe for more philosophy that doesn't just sound deep, but transforms how you live. Thank you for watching.